Hi guys. So today we are going to be spinning up this Icelandic fleece. It was a gray brown color, I think, when we started, but we have overdyed it. And today we're going to spin it up into a Lopi. Now I thought while I was doing that, I'd pull out one of my ply magazines. This is the issue on double coated breeds. It's from spring of 2021. And there's an article in here by Maja Siska about the Icelandic sheep and the Lopi style yarn. And I thought I would just read this to you as I'm spinning the Lopi because it is a low twist singles. Oops, just booted the camera. Because it's a low twist singles, I should be able to read and spin at the same time. Maybe. I might be asking too much of myself, but we're going to give it a shot. So I'll adjust the camera and we will start spinning this up. 1 second. All right, since I'm actually going to be knitting with this, I'm going to make it a S-ply. And this did seem to get a little bit cauted in processing, so I'm going to open up the fibers, just kind of pulling it open a bit. Give it a bit of a shake just to loosen up those fibers a bit. It's not fully felted, it's just matted up a little bit, which can just make it tricky to draft is all. So we'll just open it up. I now have tenants in my basement and the boys are a little freaked out. They're out front and Bobo was sitting in the front window watching them until it got to be too much for him and he ran away. Stranger danger, stranger danger. Yes, I am a child of the 80s. Well, you know, Gen X, 70s, 80s, 90s were my big growing up years. All right, let me get this started and then we will start reading about Icelandic sheep from an Icelandic author. So we want a low twist singles. Ooh, I better crank that up a bit. Oh, I better move that up to the big whirl too. There we go. Now we're talking. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to adjust the camera a bit. So we're looking more towards the wheel. All right. So, it is a remarkable fact that no other breeds have been imported since the Vikings settled in Iceland. The first settlers arrived approximately 1,000 years ago from Norway. They were headstrong chieftains and clans who would rather not subjugate under a Norwegian king. This stubborn but also resourceful streak is still visible in Iceland's sheep today, not to mention its people. Icelandic sheep, for example, rarely flock together. In the spring, after lambing in the stables, the ewes with the new lambs explode into the countryside in all directions, trying to reach the best pastures first. They also often display a great reluctance and autonomy when herded back down from the uninhabitable highlands before the winter. Icelandics have quite a range of fleece quality. 3 factors make a big difference. A, the time of shearing. B, whether the sheep have been stabled or kept out on vast pastures. And C, the age and general wool quality on the individual animal. Of course, weather and feed also greatly affect the wool quality. The Icelandic fleece is double-coated and has 2 main distinct fibers. The thell, the soft undercoat and insulating layer of the sheep, is therefore the softer and warmer fiber. It insulates very well, but is shorter and less strong. It is ideal for a woolen preparation. The tog is the long outer guard hair, which lets the water run off the sheep. It has a long staple, is strong, and is often shiny. It lends itself to making strong yarn or thread, worsted yarn. Often with primitive breeds, you can find some undesirable fibers or hairs like kemp. The breeding in recent decades has not always paid enough attention to this. And this is still Maja Siska speaking. I chose my fleeces with care and avoid having to deal with those hairs. Luckily, here in Iceland, there is a great variety of good quality fleeces available. The advantage of a double-coated fleece is that you can separate the two fibers and use only the thell or only the tog. But you can also use them carded together and get the benefits of both, warmth and durability. You really do have a multi-purpose fleece and can even play with different percentages of tog and thell. As mentioned earlier, the Icelandic forebearers came from Norway. We can safely say the Icelandic and the Splusa, I don't even know how that's, Spelsau is how it's spelled. The Icelandic and the Splusa are close relatives, even if their genetic paths separated about 1,000 years ago. I wager that anything you can do with that fleece, you can also do with an Icelandic fleece, and vice versa. So what is Lopi style? Lopi in Icelandic means the unspun pencil roving taken out of the mill machinery before the spinning happens. This Lopi is the original material used to make the Lopapeyjasa, the Icelandic sweater. Until about 20 years ago, it was mostly held triple to make a very warm and hard-wearing outdoor sweater. Nowadays, we use it mostly held double for a lighter but still very warm sweater. The only industrial woolen mill in Iceland, Icetex, has been making Lopi yarn for decades. The Alafoss Lopi, which is bulky, is made from 3 strands of the aforementioned pencil roving and has about 1 twist per inch and a twist angle of about 15 degrees. It seems to be fulled, which adds strength. The Icelandic Lopi is lighter, made from 2 strands of pencil roving. First, I selected some good quality black and white spotted fleece. Ooh, that sounds lovely. I picked out the best parts of 3 to 4 fleeces, yearling and some older sheeps. Sheeps? My Canadian is showing, eh? 3 to 4 fleeces, yearling, and some older sheep, shorn later in the fall, which means that a good amount of the thell has grown in preparation for winter. I asked my spinning sister, Hulda, at our local mini mill, to wash and card it together into roving. The stone gray color is actually black and white and some gray fibers mixed together. Some of the tog has been removed by Hulda's machines, but it contains enough for strength and character and to make it a combined tog and thell fiber preparation. Second, I selected a lamb's fleece, a first clipping in the fall as it comes off the vast highland pastures. The fleece is very soft and incredibly clean, the wool loose and locks falling apart, very little lanolin, and perfect for spinning straight from the fleece. The color is a rare gray moret, the thell is gray and the tog moret. Fleeces like this can be obtained from my spinning sister Nina on her Etsy shop. My friend Dagmar Trolldar spun and knitted this version of Lopi Love. Now I'll show you the pictures. So this is the fleece, the wool she made. And this was the one she spun straight from the fleece. You can see how it's got the brown tog and the gray thell. So let's go on. So they're going to be making this Lopi Love. It's actually got the knitted pattern in here. This is why I love Ply Magazine. They go in depth on things and it's just amazing. If you can get a subscription, I highly recommend it. All right, so this is Dagmar and we're going to talk about her spinning. So Dagmar spins straight from the raw fleece without much preparation. This way the color contrast in the fleece will remain alive in the yarn. If it was carded first, you would lose this and be left with a more uniform beige color. Dagmar takes a small handful of fiber and opens it sideways. She holds the fiber with the cut end always to the same side and perpendicular to the spinning direction. She spins with a medium backward draw, smoothing down the fibers as they move through her pinched fingers. The staple length is a mix of thell at 1 to 1.5 inches and tog, which is up to 3 to 4 inches. When drafting, hold your hands about 4 inches apart. Sometimes you will have to shorten the distance if there is a clump of thell that needs pulling apart, so keep your drafting hand very lively. I use the fingertips of my front hand, to check the twist amount and smooth the fibers. Smooth it down lightly because this Icelandic fiber will bloom and we want a bit of stitch definition. This also binds in the shorter fibers better and works against pilling. So I am now following those directions on my spin. I'm using a medium backward draw. I'm keeping my hands further apart and I'm smoothing the yarn as I go. So I have just changed the way I've been spinning this and we'll see if it makes a difference. Because it's a single, it's going to be very obvious how things change. Oh, and look at that. We're going to be starting on our other more deeply dyed Lopi or Icelandic roving. So that'll be good because then we can see the change in how I was originally spinning and if I follow the instructions from this magazine article and how that works out. Okay, so we aimed for very low twist singles. Our yarn has approximately a 20-degree twist angle and about 1.5 to 2 twists per inch. It has an average wraps per inch of 12. My view is that the fiber from this primitive breed can and should result in a more robust looking yarn. It is more important to me to get a lightweight yarn than 100% consistency. I think that if you prefer a forward draw, you can do that too. Find your rhythm and make sure you don't put too much twist into the yarn. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Although to make it a single, I tend to go for a bulkier weight. And I don't know why, but when I spin my singles, they always seem to be a bulkier weight. All right, recommendations on the washing. For the yarn spun straight from the fleece, submerge the skein in hot water with a very small amount of wool detergent. The water should be just hotter than comfortable, about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. This will melt just enough lanolin but retain some on your yarn. I put a lid on as to not lose heat too quickly and leave it for about 15 minutes. Then discard the water and gently squeeze water from the skein. Depending on how dirty your wool is, you might want to repeat this. I then submerge the skein in warm water to rinse. Keep changing the water until it runs clear. Handle your skein very carefully, no agitation, just submerge, soak, and then gently squeeze the water from the skein. This last step can be cold water bath to full the yarn slightly. I always whack my singles to distribute the twist. I find it makes the yarn more even and takes a bit of the give out of it. So my knit items don't grow by 2 sizes when I'm done knitting. Your skein should now hang straight, no need for weights, and let it dry. The yarn spun from roving needs less washing. It gets one warm soak with very little soap and then a rinse. I also thwack it and hang it to dry. I never use weight. I aim to spin it so it hangs straight after washing. And that's pretty much my goal too. Sorry, I'm just laughing at my tenants who just suddenly got caught in a rain shower. So the information on the author of this article is Maja Siska is living her dream on a farm in Iceland. Renting out 3 guest cottages leaves her some time for spinning, knitting, weaving, felting, and dyeing local wool. She always has a Lopi on the needles, but also works on larger installations. She is a trained architect, compulsive horsewoman, and a member of the local Spinning Sisters and Wool Workshop. You can find her on, on Skinnahufa.is. I'm going to assume that's an Icelandic site. Or on Facebook as Iceland is Full of Wool. So there's the information we've gotten from someone who lives on Iceland and has done this traditionally. And those are the tips and pointers she's given us on this fleece. And we are almost done spinning, so the article lasted just long enough. Just finished spinning this up. Now, technically, I should be taking this off, scanning it, washing it, whatnot. But we're going to skip a step because we're going to do a knitted swatch with it. So what I'm going to do rather than scan it up is I'm just going to take it off straight into a ball for knitting. And no, I'm not making a fancy center pull ball. I am just making a ball. You can see I have a little bit of over twist in places, but this is not bad. That's actually pretty decent. I'm kind of happy with that. All right. Oh, I hear floor creaks. That generally means there's a kitty cat coming in. There we go. All right. So here's our ball of Icelandic fleece all spun up into a Lopi style yarn. I'm going to grab my knitting gauge, my needle gauge, 1 second. So I got this knitting gauge because I primarily crochet, and they're notches rather than holes, so you can actually fit your crochet hook in it. But regardless of what kind of needle gauge you have, I learned this from a spinner who is way more experienced than me. You take your yarn, normally you would have like a plied yarn, and you fold it in half, so double it up, then take it to your needle gauge and find out what size it just gently fills. So you can see here how it sort of fills that space, but it's not tight. So that's the size of knitting needle we want. So that is a 5mm. So I'm going to grab some 5mm needles, and I'm just going to knit this up, and I'll be back to show you the results. Hang tight. All right, I just made up a quick sample because this yarn definitely needs to be washed to even out that twist. But here we have it. This is our Lopi. Now, this section here was how I was spinning it, just the way I spin. And it's much hairier and sheddy. Shetty. I don't think shetty's a word, but it is now. And this section here, I spun it following the directions from Maja Siska from the Ply magazine. There's her down there. There she is. And it came out much smoother and more compact. You can see the difference in the hairiness. So consulting the experts does work. So that's how much I spun. I literally just pulled out the remainder of that to get to this portion just so I could knit a swatch of both and we could see how it looks. But this definitely needs a bath. Trying to knit with this it's a nightmare. So I will probably skein this up and pull out this section and wash it up before I use it again. But it was fun. I enjoyed this. So thanks for joining me, guys, and I shall see you in the next one. Dr. Chaos, out.